Bienvenidos familia to Despierta Boricua. I'm your host Benjamin Ramos of the Pro Libertad Freedom Campaign, and from time to time I'll be bringing you the latest news, culture updates and politics from La Isla de Puerto Rico and throughout the Puerto Rican diaspora. First and foremost, mi gente, I want to apologize. We haven't been able to bring you a podcast since June. A lot has been going on in the city, a lot of work on Palestine, a lot of work on Puerto Rico, and like the kids love to say, life sometimes be lifing. So we are in the midst of a lot going on, but I'm bringing you today an excellent show. On today's podcast, we're going to be discussing the controversial gubernatorial election in Puerto Rico. With us today to talk a little bit about that subject is a longtime friend to the podcast, Carlos Alicia Negron, a member of Pro Libertad, a political commentator, a social media activist, and a lot of other commas. If you've read any of Carlitos' posts, he writes these wonderful essays online. Excellent work. So without ado, welcome to Despierta Boricua, Carlos.
Good evening, Ben. Good evening to everybody that is going to be watching and listening this podcast. I'm very happy to be here. And let's go and do the discussion that we need to do about the elections in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and let's get into it. Carlito, there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of discussion about this year's election. And I would love for you to give us your perspective. Why is this election this year so unique? What is happening that has everyone buzzing?
Well, generally speaking, there is an agreement in the different sectors of the National Liberation Movement that this election is unique because it seems that in the first time in many, many, many years, a candidate that is running from the Independence Party of Puerto Rico in association with other organizations actually can reach the colonial administration of Puerto Rico. And that has generated a lot of enthusiasm on people. But it's created a lot of enthusiasm on people because since if you start analyzing the electoral results in Puerto Rico for the last 3 elections, there has been a pattern of the people of Puerto Rico here in the island to be desperate to find an alternative to the 2 parties that have been administrating the colony in Puerto Rico for more than 50 years. And you can see that, for example, in 2016, 2 independent candidates, Alessandra Lugaro and a right-wing conservative, I don't remember his name, they ran for the governorship of Puerto Rico independent, and they obtained in between then almost 200,000 votes running as independents. And actually, the Independence Party didn't fare very well. Some of the sectors of the National Liberation Movement will believe that especially Alessandra Lugaro was a plan or an action of the United States government to be able to manipulate the elections in Puerto Rico. But it's some conversations that happen about that. But I'm just trying to bring the idea that the situation in the colonial situation in Puerto Rico, the economic situation and the political situation is so dire, so difficult to live here, that the people are looking for an alternative. And that happened, the first message of that was 2016. In 2020, the same happened. In this case, again, Alessandra Lugaro won with an organization called El Movimiento Victoria Ciudadana that took the idea that the elections, the status is not an issue in the election, and actually they only grow 1-2% in this organization compared with 2016. However, the Independence Party, with the candidate, with Juan Dalmau as the person postulating for the governorship of Puerto Rico and to administrate the colony, they grow to 400%. They went from 2% to 14% from one election to there. And what that told us was that, look, the people are really looking for an alternative. They had not been able to see the consciousness of saying, let's move to the independence and give the independence a chance. But inside the colonial situation, they're looking for a way to get out from the PNP and the PPD that have been the 2 parties that have been governing Puerto Rico, administering the colonia. Let's correct the language. Están administrando la colonia. they are not governing. They don't have real powers in the colonial situation of Puerto Rico, and that was something that we, the people from the National Liberation Movement, forget to talk about it. But that's another discussion we're going to have a little later. So what made unique this election is that it seems that the first time with all the polls that we've been seeing, that agreement between the Movimiento de Justicia Ciudadana and Partido Independentista Puertorriqueño, at least from the top position in the administration of the colony of Puerto Rico, it could be a possibility that it will be very close. And even some people said that they're going to be winning. But it's a reflection that the people are really desperate for what is having happened in Puerto Rico. And you know all the stuff that happened in Puerto Rico. They have been imposing hundreds and hundreds of new taxes. They are eliminating all particular social support for the economic situation of Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico. We're having a massive migration of people that are leaving to the United States because they don't think that they have a future or the possibility to have a dignified life in Puerto Rico. They are selling all the public lands. They are privatizing public corporations and all the consequences they have. But this is nothing new. This is the way that the colonial system works. They extract as much wealth that is generated by our workers in Puerto Rico. And what they are doing right now is exacerbating that situation right now. So the people are looking for an alternative. And I think that that's a reflection of that. And that in some sense make unique this election. However, in the other side, what another aspect of being a unique election is the narrative that this agreement between the MBC, the Movimiento de Victoria Ciudadana, and PIP has been to the narrative that have been using to run the candidates. And one that's really worrying me is this idea that we don't hear to mention independence in the narrative that have been used for the candidate of the Independence Party. And more openly than ever. Before they were a little, they dissimulated a little more about that. But opening right now, they have been voicing out the idea that, yeah, this election is not about the independence of Puerto Rico. It's not about the status. We only are looking for administering the colony, eliminating corruption, making sure that we clean the house is the slogan. And that's fine. I don't have issues with that. But what is unique is that here we have a candidate that belongs to the Independence Party of Puerto Rico that doesn't talk about independence at all.
And it's in the name.
Openly say that.
It's in the name.
Yeah,
it's the Puerto Rican Independence Party.
Independence. Yes.
It's in the name. And I just want...
And the only issue with that, let me add... Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me, because the other part of that is that I understand. I understand that the people are looking for an alternative. I understand that, but what I see as an issue for me, as a person that have been fighting and trying to contribute for the independence of Puerto Rico for many years, is if you want to convince the people, because we need a critical mass of Puerto Ricans defending independence, how you can advance independence if you are not mentioning independence, that is what you are supposed to defend. Because in reality, the people are going to be voting for you because you're going to eliminate corruption, because you're going to have a clean administration government, and that's true. I really believe that's going to happen if the Alianza has achieve the power achieve the win in this election. But I'm not sure that will advance independence, because people didn't support you because you believe in independence. They support you because you're saying you're going to have a clean government. But that's something that need to be discussed and debated more.
And that's where a lot of the controversy comes from, because it's a very powerful, it's an interesting situation. I'm really glad that you brought up the whole issue of how independence is disappearing, because that has been, I feel, a major contention point with a lot of folks from the left who've been writing about how is a party that is based on independence working with an organization that has decided that status is not the issue in Puerto Rico. Everything in Puerto Rico that goes on in Puerto Rico has to do with our status. There's no way of removing one from the other. And I just also want to throw in a little bit of facts for our folks to hear. Last election, Carlito, correct me if I'm wrong, but last election, the overwhelming majority of people in Puerto Rico did not vote. The overwhelming majority of people, half of the population that could vote, did not vote.
Yeah,
and that
is the first.
That goes to what Carlito has been saying about how people are just so disenfranchised with what's happening in the government, that half the population said, no, we're not voting, when historically Puerto Rico used to have a really powerful, large voter turnout. And then 4 years ago, people said, I'm not doing this anymore. This isn't working. Go ahead, Carlito.
It is only to support what you're saying. The first time, actually, statistically, when you add the people that have the age to make the process to request to vote versus the people that are already have that permit and didn't use it to vote, is the majority of Puerto Ricans. But then we have the issue is there, because if we have organizations that propose very consistently the idea that voting in the colonial process is to support the colonial situation, but they only do that write about that, but they don't go and organize the people that already decided that are not going to participate in the voting process, because that's a victory for them. So, but we need that somebody to go organize that people, and they say, look, now you realize that this voting in the process doesn't support you or help you to improve the situation that you have in Puerto Rico. Well, if you start defending and fighting for the independence, that will give us the opportunity to get independence, advance independence, and exert the political power that will actually improve your life. But we are not doing that job neither. So you're completely correct. People are very disenfranchised about that particular issue. But we need to actually, there's no a project to organize politically. That's people that decide that they don't want to vote any longer. And that needs to be done. It needs to be done. Instead of saying, you know what, you people that chose to participate are traitors or whatever. No. Because even if they are wrong, my friends from the independence, from the National Liberation Movement that decide to vote, they are not my enemy. My enemy is the United States imperialism. They're the ones that I want to really hit hard all the time. And that's important. We cannot forget that. The other issue here for me about make this unique is that this position about questioning why independence is disappearing in the process. In my personal contacts with people, in my experience, we are the minority. The majority of the people that I know from the National Liberation Movement are going to participate in the electoral process. But because go again, yes, like I quote to you one of the messages that I sent when we are coordinating this meeting. I know people that were long time anti-electoral people that didn't participate in the election process. They're saying, "Oh, we need to save the country of the PNP." But for me, that's a troubling message, because the same shit is with the PPD, with the Partido Popular Democrático, the PNP and Partido Popular Democrático is the same thing, and we forgot that these people are only los criados del imperio or the empire. They serve and they follow the orders that the United States tell them to do and what they are ordered to do. So I don't know, if we don't attack the United States, if we don't challenge the United States, we are going to ask people to challenge the United States more and more. I don't think that it's going to change much if we even win in this election, like they're saying.
Carlito, let's talk a little bit about folks that are not necessarily within the purview of the left. What when we talk about, tú sabes, arroz con habichuela, la gente de arroz con habichuela, how do people feel about this election? Because we also have to remember how conservative Puerto Rico is. Puerto Rico is not the land of Democrats and people who vote progressively. Let's be very real. So our people can run and push a conservative line. When we're not talking to los compañeros, la familia de la izquierda, folks on the left, what are
Mhm.
people saying?
It's like I'm telling you, the people are looking for an alternative. Like, for example, I have one job that I clean a business for a young couple of business people. They have a small restaurant, very good. When you come to Puerto Rico, I'm going to take there. The food is great. It's called Palbelli. I interact with 4 young people there every Monday, doing all the cleaning of the restaurant. Both 2 of them come from the PNP, from the Partido No Progresista families, and 2 from the PPD families. And we're having political conversations when we're cleaning the restaurant. What they're telling me that they're looking for an alternative. They really want. They know that the PNP and the PPD are fucked up and they're corrupt and they don't want to live with them any longer. And I remember at least 2 of them are telling me that they're going to vote for Juan Dalmau to governor, even despite that they come from families that are from PNP and PPD. And I remember one that really struck me was he told me, "Explain me how I'm going to improve my life with independence because I don't fear independence." So I think that it's happening slowly. The younger generations are looking that things are fucked up. They need to do something about it, and in some level, we are failing to tell them um, why independence could be the possibility for them to improve their life. Because what they're looking for is they want to have a possibility of having a good material assistance in the land that they love, in Puerto Rico that they love. But then again, go back to what I was saying before. If you want to move these people about understanding how independence is that will give them that possibility, you cannot do that if you not talk about independence. You need to talk about independence. Why is that Puerto Rico independence, we have the political powers to be able to make sure that they have a dignified life, to protect the agricultural industries, to protect our local industries, to allow them to be able to go, if they want to do a business and they don't have a disadvantage in how in other big companies coming fucking that up in their setting up their business, whatever business they want to do. Guaranteeing to them public education that is a quality for them. But how you can do that if you don't talk about independence?
Mm.
So in my family, I have a lot of people, and that's what I've been sensing in here in Naranjito, in the mountains. My uncle is a long time member of the PPD, or Partido Popular Democrático, but he told me that he's voting for Juan Dalmau, and his daughter and his son is voting for Juan Dalmau, and his compañera is voting for Juan Dalmau because they're looking for a way out. They know that this is fucked up. They know that it's fucked up. And for example, I'm not going to vote because I have serious issues with what is happening right now. But I don't discourage them. But I keep talking to them about independence and keep telling them, look, independence is necessary for this and these reasons. Because we can protect our industries, because we can protect our agricultural lands, because a real government under the Republic will protect all the natural resources of Puerto Rico for the benefit of all of you. We are not going to privatize and sell out like a precio pescado bombao all the agricultural land that we have left in the country because they want to give it to the private sector. But for that, to do that protections, we need to have the political powers to be able to do it. And go back to the whole idea that in this particular situation where the people are really looking for an alternative, the radical thing to do is talk about independence and why that's important to be able to find that alternative that will liberate them. But
And
they choose not to do that.
And what's interesting is, Carlito, we have been sold this narrative that under independence there's going to be unemployment. We're going to starve in the streets, and there'll be corruption, and there'll be lack of resources. And what we've seen in Puerto Rico for more than a century is that all of those
Mm-hmm.
cucos, all of those scary
Yeah.
things that happen under independence have been
Yeah.
happening under the colony and are going to get worse if Puerto Rico became a state.
Yeah.
So you're afraid of
Mm-hmm.
independence.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of these things that the
Yeah.
narrative that independence is a horrific monster. Well, all of those things are
Yeah.
happening right now under your PPD government and will get worse. under
Mm-hmm.
statehood. So Carlito, just again,
Mm-hmm.
I find it, Carlito, just hearing you, and this reminds me of stuff that I've seen in the press recently, where I see there's organizations that are popping up called Estadistas por Dalmau, um, PPD por
Mm-hmm.
Dalmau. Like, we're seeing these people who come
Mm-hmm.
from these diametrically opposed parties supporting some
Mm-hmm.
supporting but when you see things like that, is it like a well, for me, it's just so the paradigm has changed so much that there are things to me that
Mm-hmm.
that don't make sense traditionally. Like you just said right now, you have familia que son PPD that are voting for Dalmau. And it's just, and Dalmau, of course,
Mm-hmm.
folks, for those of you who may not know, Juan Dalmau is the candidate of the Puerto Rican Independence Party. And of course, they're in something
Mm-hmm.
called the La Alianza, the alliance with the MVC. So
Yeah.
when you, Carlito, it's confusing to me. I'm just wondering, how is it for you when you see those things or you hear those things? How does it how does your brain function with those things?
Well, when I hear that, see, again, I don't have issue with that. I understand why the people are coming that way. It's that it's so openly corrupt, and these people are really the PPD and the people from the PNP. They don't have any no shame at all. No shame. They are, come to the point. Look at the campaign that they have been doing about calling comunista and Juan Dalmau. That is not. The PIP is not comunista. It's a social democratic party, has been always like that. The economic plans are modeled to the Scandinavian countries, to give an example. That's a reference that they always use. So they don't have no change. And people are tired because the situation in Puerto Rico economically is very dire. And every day, every year, for the last 22 years, San Pedro Rosselló Padre, but even before, it was less open. But San Pedro Rosselló Padre, uh, the father of the governor that was kicked out, Ricky Rosselló, in the summer of 2019. What has been happening in Puerto Rico due to the contradictions of the economic model that is imposed by the colonial regime in Puerto Rico has been more and more austerity and more and more and more taxes. I read some, who was telling me, a friend was telling me that combined in the last 22 years between the PPD and PNP, they have imposed 350 new taxes to Puerto Ricans in that time. So is the level of economic extraction of the people, of the wealth that generated by our workers is insane. Is insane, and it's going to get worse with the austerity program and making us to pay the illegal debt that have been imposed to us through the Junta de Control Fiscal. That's going to be worse what happened. So the people know that. The people are really looking for a way out. So I understand that. However, contrary to my many of my friends that with good intentions and they want to stop this barrage of economic violence against Puerto Rican, when they told me that, I say, great, you that's a great step. You're breaking up with the PPD PNP. But that's not enough. That's not enough. Because for these reasons. The first one is that nothing is going to change in the sense of the power balance if the Alianza win the governorship. They have the Junta de Control Fiscal there deciding everything. It's a mentira. It's a lie. We don't have no power. And that's the part that worry me a lot. If you listen to the people from the National Liberation Movement, the majority of the people that are, I have a good friend that I love. She's an amazing person, a very active fighter for the independence of Puerto Rico. But she's telling me that she's voting because we want to get access to power. And I told her, what fucking power are you talking about? We are a colony. We don't have no power in getting the colonial administration, unless with the fiscal board, con la Junta de Control Fiscal. So I understand what they're coming from, but what I tell them consistently is, let's be clear with the people about this. Okay, fine. You broke with the PPD. You're broken with the PNP. You're giving a chance to a guy that believes in independence even when he don't talk about it. But let me tell you, that's not going to be enough. That's not going to be enough. And you need to be in the streets. And you need to go fight against the imposition of the COFINA plan for paying COFINA bonds. That is chaining us for 40 years of evil forever. We cannot change evil any longer for 40 years. And we are going to be paying 3 times supposedly the debt that we are owed to the financial sector in the United States. I don't remember the exact number. I wrote an article in El Movimiento about that. It's like 2 times or 2 times and a half in interest, in service to the debt. We are going to be paying of the money that we are supposed to be saving because of the junta did a great deal. Of course, they don't say to you that they converted that bonds en bonos que no eran protegidos, asegurados, to bonos that are asegurados. You know, and the big difference of that is that if you have a bond that is not secure, then the woman can say, you know what, I cannot pay, so you lost. You make a risk investment. But they converted these COFINA bonds in secure bonds, and now if something happened, we are obligated to pay for them anyway. Doesn't matter.
And Puerto Rico cannot.
No, we are going to be in bankrupt. We are going to be in bancarrota de nuevo in 2-3 years. That's going to happen. And has been predicted. But you see, what I'm trying to say is, it's great people are seeing and breaking and looking for an alternative. And what I still don't understand about my brothers and sisters from the PIP is how the political reading was in this particular moment that I would expect to be more radical, meaning pushing more for independence, because the colonial situation is what brought us here. They decided to hide independence and decide to don't radicalize the discourse. And that happened to us in Greece in the summer of 2019. The people were ready. They were ready. When we went to that marches, there was not one fucking American flag. The people were radicalizing the slogans that we were chanting in the streets. But us as a movement, the National Liberal Movement, we decided that, we don't want to do this a political situation. A political, como dice aquí, una politiquería partidista. It's political from the beginning, and we choose not to take the leadership of that. And what happened when they realized the potential of the people on the street, they bring the artists that suavizaron el mensaje. So now was the artists the one that were inviting people to come out. And the consignas cambiaron completamente in that particular process. And we are doing the same now. That's what I explained to my friends, that we disagree. And actually, it's the other part of Rico that is that for the last month, we decided that we cannot debate this electoral issue with my close friends from the different parts of the National Liberation Movement. They don't want to talk about election any longer, about these issues.
It's so polarizing.
Because they decided they're going to participate. Yeah, it's so polarizing.
It's so polarizing.
That's the issue.
From what I understand, there are a lot of political organizations, left political organizations in Puerto Rico that have decided we're going to take a step back because our membership the perspective is so wide and broad that it's actually smarter not to touch upon it, because then you create more fractures. And the less thing we need, the least thing we need right now is less unity amongst the national liberation struggle. We have enough lack of unity. We don't need any more. We don't need organizations disappearing and fracturing. Carlito, as we're wrapping up, I want to ask you, and before I ask you this question, because I have noticed, again, in Puerto Rican media, they've been doing all of these opinion polls of qué lo que va a pasar el 5 de noviembre, what's going to happen November 5th. And a lot of the polls have come back, very interestingly enough, with, Jennifer Gonzalez, who's the candidate for the Puerto Rican Statehood Party, winning. A lot of the polls keep putting her somewhere at 50-something% or the high 40s, with Dalmau always being underneath her. So my question to you is, vamos a tratar de ver el futuro. Let's try to see the future. What do you think is going to happen on November 6th, the day after the election. Who do you think won? What is going to happen? What do you think?
Well, I will tell you something. The first thing that I'm going to say about that is that we are going to be in the streets, and not only November 6th, but the same day. I'm looking forward for many of my other organizations that we have working here and that we have been a tradition to make an action during the election day, that we will do that again, and I will be there with them doing that. But about winning the elections, well, the polls are manipulations of the different sectors. So I don't think that, and I hope that I don't create a situation with my friends that are participating in the process, because they are really thinking that they are going to win the Alianza. I don't think that the numbers for the Alianza to finish first are there for different reasons. Even because I believe that some people in the NBC do not want to support Wanderman, because we did an analysis of the last election, and using the results in the false plebiscite for statehood. Last election, it was they present something called a statehood, yes or no, and the statehood won by 51% versus 46, 47 of the no for statehood. And but that was it's a bogus consultant. It's a waste of money because it doesn't have any impact in the process of the colonization of Puerto Rico. But when you analyze the numbers, that means that the vote for yes statehood in that election was 240,000 more votes than more or less than Pierluisi, the statehood governor, got for governorship in Puerto Rico. So we started doing analysis, and the only two places that votes can come from were three places. Small percentage of people from the PPD, that we have people that believe in the PPD that are stateholders. And the other two sources are El Partido Dignidad and El MBC, because independent people do not vote for the state. And we need to remember that we have 80,000, 90,000 integral votes for the PIP in the last election. So the majority of the people that vote for a statehood come from that two parties and the NBC. So that means that I don't think so that some sectors of the NBC are not going to vote for Wanderman independence in that case. You do that, you need to understand that the PNP, El Partido No Progresista, is starting already with at least a 30% of the vote, because that's the core of the people that there. So you will need at least like 37% of the vote to win in this particular election. Maybe a little less, because they win last time for 33%. Yes, 33%. Even if you made the math that they were deciding to do this, so that it was 28%, they are 5 points behind the last election, and I don't think that they have enough votes there to get there. I think that it's going to win. I don't think that the Jennifer Gonzalez is going to reach the governorship. I think that the Alliance is going to be second, but it's not going to be 40%. And that is a manipulation of the Nuevo Dia. That was the last one that put that number there. And another part is El Nuevo Dia doesn't have a good record in predicting the elections. They always, I don't know how many times they have failed to do that. I think that the Jennifer is going to win, but it's not going to win with more than 34% of the vote. That's it, and it's going to be very close. My disappointment with the PIP is that I believe that they have paid a very high price in this alianza, and they could have grown more without need to sin la necesidad of hiding the independent discourse and narrative in the process. And that they have come with consequence. Look what happened with the narrative, or the electoral narrative, that actually betray. Let me use that word is very strong. They really fail to respect, to support our brother, our countries that have supported us for a long time in the independence movement. They openly denounced the Nicaragua government many months ago. They actually in the question about Venezuela, they really felt miserable about it, and that's a loss that they have. That's a price. The price they're paying for being able to be in this alianza is too much. And for me, the most important is, again, and I want to repeat. I want to be repetitive because it's an important point. If you want to move people to believe in independence, you need to talk about independence. And we are in a situation that people are looking for an answer. So why not talk about independence? Um, and that's the issue. I think that's a high price, not only for the PIP, it's a high price for the National Liberation Movement too, because it's going to be more difficult after November 5th, our work to keep moving people about that. Because, hey, the people that were running in the Alianza saying that we can reform the colonial regime. It's no issue. We don't need independence to improve our life. So why they are going to show independence? You can fix this on the colonial regime. Why you want to do independence? And I think that that's a high price that we're paying in this process.
And why would we ever want to create a colonialism that is good for us? That's whenever I have heard some folks talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Calito, I agree with you. I think the idea that we're going to wrest power and have power in Puerto Rico. For folks who may not know, there's a fiscal control board that was set up there by President Obama. And that fiscal control board was put into place by the U.S. president, and it has more governing power than an elected governor in Puerto Rico. So to act as though the governorship is the ultimate power in Puerto Rico is, I think, a very sad delusion. I think, Carlito, you might agree with me that it's a joke.
I agree with you.
It's a joke to think that grabbing this colony and trying to control it is going to be something that's like trying to control one of the hurricanes in Puerto Rico. It just does not happen. Yeah. And I love the idea that you say that if we're looking for an alternative, is now more than ever talking about independence is necessary. I think it's again, este cuco, this narrative about how horrible an independent Puerto Rico would be, you're living it right now. The people are living it, and it's going to get worse. Luma is not getting better.
Yeah.
And Carlito mentioned all the taxes that have happened and are upcoming, all of the pensions and the union destabilization. Puerto Rico is becoming a scary place to live in. And it's I agree with you, Carlito. I think right now, if we're going to be afraid to talk about...
And look...
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the displacements of the people. The displacement of the people, selling out our agricultural lands. Right now, it's a communist project that what it was the Rubens Road base is going to be sold to private investors to create a mega urban development, residential development for rich people. The houses start in $1 million. That's not for Puerto Ricans. That's for people from the outside. The whole control of Vieques, Rincon, Culebra, all that kind of stuff. And let me add something before I forget. When you're talking about the fiscal control board, we wrote an article in the Movimiento Negrón called Que se vayan todos. And it was that premise. Why we have senators, House representatives, a governor, if the junta is making all the decisions, and we are paying millions and millions of dollars for operating these things to create un espejismo of gobierno that it doesn't exist because the fiscal control board decide everything. So why let's get these people go. We don't need them. We are paying for sustaining the lie of governing in Puerto Rico that doesn't exist because the fiscal control board decides everything. So it's a waste of money. And that money comes from us. And that's something that I cannot forget to say. The gringos, since 1898, implemented a system where we, with our work, with our taxes, pay for the administration of the colony. the United States Treasury do not put a fucking penny in any of the development of roads, of any of the social infrastructure was developed in Puerto Rico. And the reason that we have this supposedly this debt is because to be able to provide that, because the economic base was not sufficient to produce the wealth necessary to pay for all this, is to loan the money. So this all is because of the colonial situation of Puerto Rico, and we need to get rid of it. So in this particular moment that the people are looking for an alternative, for me, not talking about independence and providing that alternative from independence and the necessity of that to be able to live in Puerto Rico is a high price that we are paying for this process, for the illusion that we're going to win something.
We need an independent Puerto Rico, not a better run colony, because there's no such thing as well run
Yes.
colonies, especially for the people who lived under
Yeah.
colonialism. So, familia, this has been your October edition of Despierta Boricua. Thank you to our brother Carlos Alicea, who's here again as an independent activist, longtime Pro Libertad supporter, member. He's joining with us today to have this conversation. There are lots of people listening to this that agree with us, don't agree, don't know where they stand. We give space to as many different perspectives as possible, and I wanted to have this conversation with Carlito because it's a great conversation, and I think he brings up a lot of things that we have to think about. So whether you agree with us, don't agree, that's fine. Do whatever it is that you want to do, but let's unite on one thing, which is that we need an independent Puerto Rico. Everyone wants to do what's best for Puerto Rico, and we all have different perspectives on that, and that is okay. Vamos a ver lo que hacemos juntos. United, we build things better than we do disunited. Thank you to our listening audience. Let's do the YouTube commercial. If you like this segment, share it. We need you to subscribe, turn the notification bell on so that you know when the next Despierta Boricua is uploaded to the channel. Again, thank you to our brother Carlos Alicea Negron from Puerto Rico, native of Naranjito, activist based in Naranjito. You'll be seeing Carlito a little bit more. I would love to have him come and speak a little bit more about what's happening with the taxations and what's the upcoming more exploitation that's taking place in Puerto Rico. Como siempre, mi gente, que viva Puerto Rico libre.